Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by White House reporter Haisten Willis. Haisten, President Biden can claim sort of a win in the midterm elections. I mean, as we're taping this, some of the results aren't known. The exact composition of Congress isn't even really known. But what we do know is Democrats overperformed on election night, and that's a pretty big W for Biden.
Biden seems to have avoided a big midterm shellacking, as Obama put it. Obama lost 63 seats in 2010. Bill Clinton lost 54 in 94. Donald Trump lost 40 seats in 2018. Biden looks like he's going to lose, I believe, less than 20. He could lose as few as about 10 seats in the midterm. So relatively speaking, he's still losing seats, but that's still pretty much a victory for the Democrats. He is probably going to lose control of the House. That'll fall into Republican hands, but they have a very, very slim majority and definitely a divided government and divided Congress as well.
I mean, it seems like he finally got a little bit of a benefit from the fact that he had such small majorities to begin with, because Clinton and Obama had huge majorities, but probably unsustainably big, and lots of conservative districts were still represented by Democrats at that time. Not so much for Biden and the Democrats this time around.
Right, he had less to lose in the first place, so that's one factor as well. But yeah, it almost seems like there's been a bit of a stabilization, I guess, between the parties, where you're not seeing these wild swings that you saw in the last decade.
So President Biden's obviously pretty happy with what's happened, and he's kind of come out and talked a little bit. And there's maybe a little bit of a tension in the things that he's saying, because on the one hand, he's saying he's pretty open to compromising and wants to work with the Republicans who come in and thinks that the voters voted for that. But on the other hand, he's saying, well, I'm not really going to change anything major that I'm doing, and I don't want them rolling back any of my agenda. What is his approach going to be to these things?
Well, we'll see what his approach really is. It's going to be hard to say, but right, he's kind of leaving both possibilities open. He's saying he's not going to change, but he's also going to compromise. And of course, compromise theoretically has been a big part of his appeal and what he's talked about. He came in talking about unity, wanting to lower the temperature and lower the rhetoric in the country. So he's still kind of saying that. Of course, when it comes to really specific policies, he's pretty much been a traditional Democrat and wanted to push his own agenda. So we'll see how things go now that he no longer has unified control, unlikely to have unified control of Congress as well.
So it's sort of like, he wants the Democratic agenda to pass, but he thinks it'd be nice if Republicans voted for it too.
Yeah, maybe that's his version of compromise, right? We get what we want, and then you also say yes.
Yeah, right. So now the president is going overseas. He's going to have a major international trip, series of trips, right on the heels of the midterm elections. Now, if they'd gone badly, would have looked like he was fleeing the country in response to a Republican-controlled Congress. Went well enough. Is he going to go abroad and maybe meet with the Chinese leadership and have a little pep in his step?
I think he will. Yeah, there were definitely jokes flying around in the days before the midterms that Biden was going to get out of town as soon as the results were in and be gone for a week. I mean, he is still leaving, of course, but yeah, I think he'll have some pep in his step, maybe a smile on his face as he's jetting off. He'll be going to Indonesia for the G20 summit, a few other places as well. Probably the most high-profile thing he's going to be doing, which you alluded to, is meeting with Chinese President Xi. There's, of course, a lot of tension between the U.S. and China that seems to still be escalating, and people will be very closely watching how that interaction goes with Xi.
I mean, obviously, domestic politics and international things are different. The politics ends at the water's edge and all the rest of it. But it obviously has to help to some degree when he goes and meets with international leaders that they're not predicting that everything he's going to say and do is going to immediately be undone.
What do you mean by that exactly? I'm not sure I totally understand the
question.
Well,
for example, he's going to a climate conference. He did get a climate bill passed. He got it signed. There was a lot of speculation when he's gone to previous events like that, because of the degree to which Republicans and Joe Manchin have sway on Capitol Hill. Maybe some of the stuff he's promising, and maybe some of the concessions he's asking other emitters and polluters to do, doesn't have as much credibility on that because he can't get it done himself.
Well, potentially, although they did pass the Inflation Reduction Act. They sort of alternated between calling it the formal name Inflation Reduction Act and calling it the Climate Bill, because there were a lot of climate provisions in it. So he will be able to kind of come with that in his pocket as well. Hey, we did pass this. It was kind of a modest climate bill, but it did pass, and I got that through Joe Manchin and through my Congress. So that would potentially give him, I guess, some leverage in those negotiations with foreign leaders.
Well, hopefully the president thinks it's a good political climate.
We will see.
Thank you, Haisten. You can read Haisten and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.